Hello, everybody, and welcome to Blue Jays Today. We're your boys. We always got something to say about the Toronto Blue Jays. I'm your host, Nicholas Blaylock.
And I'm your host, Adam Peddle. And today, guys, we've got to discuss the recent trade that the Toronto Blue Jays made involving Santiago Espinal. It's a sad, sad end of an era here in Blue Jays Today land. One of the fan favorites, but we got to discuss why did the Blue Jays make this move, and do we think it was a good one? Before we get into it, guys, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to Blue Jays Today. First initial thoughts. Let's go over to Ben Nicholson-Smith here, who came out with a tweet yesterday while we were both at a Raptors game when we saw this tweet. So shout out to Ben for delivering the news, saying Blue Jays sends infielder Santiago Espinal to the Reds for right-hander Chris McIlvaine. First thoughts when we were sitting there at the Raptors game. You read the tweet. What are you thinking?
Well, it was, it is sad because Santiago Espinal, again, like, he was always a fan favorite for me. And I mean, I'm just seeing this right now, but shout out to Steven Sansone down here, who says, gonna miss Espinal. He was a good acquisition and a good player for the Jays, but he didn't really have a spot now. And I guess what he tweets right there, that's kind of my feelings too. I love Espinal. I think he deserves an MLB position with somebody, but it just felt like, especially through this spring training, it was just looking increasingly likely that he wasn't going to have a spot with these Toronto Blue Jays anymore.
Yeah, I mean, we all know the story about Ernie Clement and how, he has no options left, and then you had Espinal who had some options, and maybe you could send down Espinal and then bring up Ernie Clement because he has been doing so well, and you don't want to cut that guy. And it felt like he was the odd man out. I mean, even before the whole Ernie Clement breakout thing, we were talking about how IKF came in and everyone else, and they're kind of pushing him down that totem pole. And a guy like Espinal, I mean, he's not a bad MLB player. We all forget that just less than 2 years ago, guys, like, he was an all-star.
Yeah.
He was absolutely an all-star.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the numbers. I mean, the numbers aren't sexy, but a serviceable guy. And on any other team, could do some work, but on our team, as this might sound like a shout to us because we have such a good roster, it doesn't belong here anymore. So we had to make some sort of move, whether it be a option or a trade in that capacity.
Yeah, and I'll be the first to call myself out here. I'm surprised that this is happening when it's happening. I was saying that I don't think there's going to be a trade before opening day, and I guess I wasn't fully factoring in how these Toronto Blue Jays are valuing some of these spring training signings and tryouts, right? So we're talking about Ernie Clement, we're talking about Joey Votto, we're talking about Daniel Vogelbach. We are now also talking about Brian Servant because Danny Jansen, is going to be injured, right? So I feel like these Toronto Blue Jays, they're looking at those guys and saying, hey, we want to give them an opportunity in the MLB, and Santiago Espinal was kind of holding them up, which brings us to our next topic here, looking at the 40-man. Ben Nicholson-Smith came out and talked about, or tweeted this out, saying, the Espinal move also clears a 40-man spot for the Blue Jays, who will need one within the week to select a backup catcher like Brian Servant. He then goes on to say, if Vogelbach or Votto is on the team, they'll need a second spot. No obvious 60-day IL candidates, so someone's likely getting DFA or traded.
Yeah, and there could be another move kind of around the corner, whether it be a DFA or trade, because if we look at the 40-man roster from these Toronto Blue Jays, I mean, there is no real obvious candidates. I think the only obvious one would be like, for say, maybe a Wes Parsons. I mean, a lot of people have been tossing around Wes Parsons' name, but if you look over at the infield side of things, or the position player side of things, there really is nobody. I mean, you literally made space for Ernie Clement, and then are you really going to DFA or cut or you start burning the options of like Leo Jimenez? Well, you're going to have to start burning the options, yes, but you're going to have to DFA or clear him off there if you want to add someone on like Joey Votto, like Ben Nicholson-Smith was saying. So you don't really want to do that. So unless they cut Wes Parsons, I feel like maybe another minor sort of trade like this could be around the horizon.
Right.
And it's going to be purely a business move. It's not going to be sexy. I mean, no disrespect to Chris McIlvaine, but it's going to be one of those moves that you just have to do just because it's business.
Yeah, well, let's talk about Chris McIlvaine a little bit and familiarize ourselves with his game, everybody. The guy is a 23-year-old pitcher. He's from Cincinnati, obviously. Young prospect. He's never played in the MLB before. Scrolling down to see his numbers from last year, the guy had a 4.41 ERA. That was in 96 innings flat. So just 96 innings, 4.1, 4.4.
I think that's our run average is 4.41. I think his average was 375. So,
all right,
okay.
Looking at the wrong category there, folks. That's even better.
That's even better. Hey, Chris McIlvaine, baby.
We're getting it done, folks. But realistically, this is not a top prospect, guys. You're not going to find him on the top 30 of the Cincinnati Reds or the top 30 of the Toronto Blue Jays. He's a guy, and I don't want to discredit Chris McIlvain, but he's probably going to be living in the minor leagues for quite a while.
Yeah, I mean, hey, he was only drafted in 2022, the same year that Espinal won or was an All-Star. So he's got time to develop. And look, I'm not banking on him, but it's one of those moves that like the Reds know we have to make a move. We know we got to make a move. Let's get something in return for Santiago Espinal. So I guess with that final thought right there is, did you like the return, or did you like this move, or was it one of those things where it's like you just kind of had to do it, man?
Time for a quick shout out to Betway. Betway is the best place to make all of your sports bets on all of your favorite teams. Betway is also in collaboration with iGaming Ontario. Must be 19 years older to participate. And guys, please bet responsibly. Now, back to the content.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I don't have a whole lot of just feelings in general about this. Like, I'm sad to see Espinal go. I am, because again, I loved Espinal. I thought he was a great dude, and I thought he was a great clubhouse individual, somebody to have on your team, on your roster. But as far as the return goes and everything like that, it really does just feel like a business decision. And we haven't even touched on this yet, but now you're saving $2.75 million. Because that's going to the Cincinnati Reds. And you're going to have to pay Joey Votto or Daniel Vogelbach $2 million. So, from a Rogers Communication Company standpoint, they're like, great,
hey,
now we can pay one of these guys.
Even in the future, I mean, you had more arbitrations coming up, so you'd have to go and maybe do another increase and do another negotiation. So, yeah, I guess a little less payment, a little less work on that end.
Yeah,
right?
No, exactly. I am very interested to see what's happening next, because as Ben Nicholson-Smith tweeted there, he's leaving the door open for a DFA, for a trade. And yeah, when you're looking at that 40-man roster, it's so difficult to see one of these guys, getting cut. So then it leads you to think that a trade's going to happen.
Yeah.
But who do you want to trade, right? Because there's so many good prospects here. There's so many other guys, right? So it's going to be interesting to see what the Jays do in the next few days.
Yeah, I was joking about it with you at the Raptors game. I mean, I was like, is this a Ernie Clement extension happening coming up soon? I mean, look, no, in all realness, he has 0 options left. He's on a minor league deal. But essentially, you are effectively saying, Ernie Clement, you're the guy now.
Yeah.
Right? Like, who else are you going to bring up? Leo Jimenez? He doesn't really look ready in terms of my eyeball test at spring training. Like, is it Ernie Clement's job now to lose?
Of course.
Yeah.
No, this trade finalizes that. Now it is it's going to be tough because he doesn't have any options.
That's right.
And I think that's the scary part here. It's like, if this guy does come out and he doesn't look very good, which I don't think is going to happen because he's having a great spring and he had a good last year in the small sample size. But if he does look, like he just doesn't belong here, needs more time in the minors, what are you going to do, right? You don't have any options. Now you're going to DFA him, and now you don't have Santiago Espinal to bring up. So the Jays are putting all of their eggs in the Ernie Clement basket. I think it's a great basket. I think the guy is a wagon this year, folks. Like, he really is like everyone's favorite spring training player. But that's what they're saying. He's saying, Ernie Clement, you're a dude.
Yeah, I mean, I always described Ernie Clement as the best bench guy ever, because you could sit him for 3 games, he'd come in and you go 2 for 3.
Right.
Right? And hey, he's got great utility off the bench in a pinch running situation. He could do that. So for me, he's the best bench guy. And even looking down further down the road, is, hey, I mean, now that you do clear up a little bit of spot, Espinal is gone. Is there a potential that maybe if Ernie is struggling, you could bring up like an Addison Barcia or a Elvis Martinez, because that infield spot now just gets a little bit less deep, because we lost Otto Lopez, now we lost Espinal, so it feels like we're clearing out the guys that were just above them in terms of like, well, it's easy to bring these guys up because like they're not super high level prospects. We can start burning those options. Those guys are now leaving and making room for the next wave.
Well, if this move does mean a potential Barger debut or Elvis Martinez debut, then I am all for that, folks.
Yes.
Because that we've been coming out and talking about these dudes consistently, saying like there's too much of a logjam here of guys in the infield to have them come up to the MLB, and we want to see them in the show. We need to eventually get this next round of prospects to reinvigorate the squad, right? Keep this freaking window open. So if this move means that, then I'm down.
I'm absolutely down. Guys, I want to hear if you're down too. Let us know your thoughts in the comments about this Espinal trade, because, look, I feel like we've really skipped over the sentimental part. Absolutely love Espinal as a Blue Jay. Wish you all the best in Cincinnati, man. Yeah, I mean, hell, I can never forget that 2022 season.
No, man. I love Espinal, but it is now Ernie Clement season. Folks, please make sure to hit the like, smash the subscribe button. Also, $3 a month, become a Patreon member. Shout out and thank you to all of our current Patreon members and our YouTube members, too. You guys are freaking amazing.
And guys, thank you so much for watching.
And as always,
Go Jays, go!